It's debate night. The Congressional District 34 seat in Texas is up for grabs. Squaring off for the first time, Democratic Congressman Vicente Gonzalez.
We have women dying in hospital rooms, and I think the law has gone too far.
And Republican former Congresswoman Myra Flores.
Have my opponent pushing for late-term abortion, because he is too lazy to actually do something.
From your local election headquarters, the battle for District 34 begins now.
Hey, good evening. I'm your host, Frank McCaffrey, NBC 23 News anchor and the host of Inside Valley Politics. Now, moderating tonight's debate are CBS 4 morning anchor Daisy Martinez and CBS 4 weekend anchor and political reporter Brian Svensson. Now, before we get started, here are the rules. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer the questions, and if there is a follow-up, they will have 30 seconds. At the end of the debate, the candidates will have 30 seconds for a closing statement, and when the time is up, you will hear this bell. Okay, there it is. We have a hashtag tonight where our questions and documentation are posted. We are also looking for your thoughts on the candidates. Use the hashtag TX34Debate. We are streaming this debate live on valleycentral.com. And with that, Debate Night Texas starts now.
Candidates, thank you so much for being here tonight for this important Congressional District 34 debate. We only have an hour, so it's important that you guys stick to the cues we give you. With that said, let's get started right now.
We held a random card draw to decide who goes first, and former Congresswoman Myra Flores, you will get the first question. The economy is the most important issue on voters' minds this election. Since the pandemic, families have felt the financial strain. In the past year, consumer prices have risen 2.4%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What specific policies or legislation do you support to ease the financial burden Texans are facing? You have 60 seconds.
Thank you for that question. Well, 4 years ago, we had a stronger economy under President Trump. It was his policies that gave us more money in our pockets to be able to take care of our children and take care of our families. I believe that we need to put back in place those policies that worked. You're right, most Americans right now don't even have $1,000 in their savings account just in case, of an emergency. It's important that we prioritize the needs of the American people and stop sending billions of dollars abroad while the American people right now are living paycheck to paycheck. So I believe in putting back in place the policies that President Trump had, because under President Trump, we did have a stronger economy. Unfortunately, the Biden and Harris administration have disappointed us. I wish I could say that they're doing a wonderful job, but unfortunately, their policies have destroyed the economy and have destroyed the border as well. So I believe in putting back in place those policies that President Trump had 4 years ago.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Congressman Gonzalez, same question. What specific policies or legislation do you support to ease the financial burden Texans are facing? You have 60 seconds.
Yes. Well, clearly, inflation is real. And it was caused because of the global pandemic that caused a global inflation, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And we were clocking in at 8.9% inflation in 2021. Last month, inflation clocked in at 2.4. So we still have work to do, but you see gas prices were at $4 and $5 a gallon a few years ago. Today, I just gassed up for $2.62. We need to do the same thing to bring food prices down. We need to go after price gougers. Clearly, meat prices, poultry prices, egg prices are higher than they should be, but we've got to go after corporate price gougers that have been allowed by Republicans, been protected to continue gouging the American people, and we need to have the Federal Trade Commission and states need to go after these kind of bad actors. They're happening in industries all across the country, and that's the only way to really bring inflation down. We're working on it. It's come down, but it can come down a lot more.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Moving on to the next question, Mr. Gonzalez, we start with you. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have said they will eliminate federal taxes on worker tips if they are elected. Some economic experts say that's not a viable solution for putting more money in workers' pockets. What would be your plan to increase wages or provide tax relief for low-income workers?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we need to have a mandatory $15 an hour minimum wage. I think it's absurd that we still have people in communities making $7.25 an hour in times with inflationary prices. 6 years ago, people were calling complaining about a $15 an hour proposal. Today, I think everybody can agree that you can't get a good employee without paying $15. And if you're paying less than $15, you're abusing your employees. So we need to have rules in place that require people to pay fair wages, especially to young people. We have a lot of young people, middle-class people that are not earning the salary that they should be, and we need to have policies in place that require businesses and the economy as a whole to take care of our working-class people.
Ms. Flores, same question for you. What would be your plan to increase wages or provide tax relief for low-income workers? You have 60 seconds.
Well, I was a server for many years as well, and servers get paid $2.13. They rely on their tips, and I believe that, yeah, no, they should not be getting their tips taxed. I know what it feels like having to report all your tips and them removing, you know, your taxes off your tips. And so I believe in President Trump's policies in putting that in place. But I do believe that we have to bring the cost of living down, because $7 an hour is just not enough to be able to sustain a family. But by us focusing on bringing the costs down, that is going to help small businesses. A lot of businesses cannot afford paying over $7 an hour, so we have to be mindful of that. But we do have to increase the minimum wage at the same time, because unfortunately the cost of living is so high. But by reducing the cost of living, we can help with that. But by us also increasing the minimum wage, again, it just defeats the purpose, because a lot of times it will increase the cost of living and it will hurt the middle class, those that are already getting paid more than $15 an hour.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Mr. Gonzalez, did you have a rebuttal to that? I saw your head.
No, we certainly need a $15 an hour minimum wage. We need to pay people fair wages, especially here in South Texas. You see a lot of working class people making a lot less than $15 an hour, and I don't believe that we cannot pay $15 an hour. Wages need to come up, and of course prices may come up a little bit, but we need to take care of the working people. We have a lot of young people, in fact recent high school grads, college grads, that are not being paid the fair wage that they deserve.
I agree. I actually agree in increasing the minimum wage, but we have to be mindful with the small businesses. A lot of small business can't afford it, and that's where, you know, I am mindful and thoughtful of that, because I have met a lot of small businesses throughout South Texas, and they've told me over and over we would not be able to sustain that amount of money per hour, and the benefit would be, you know, Target and Walmart. Those people would benefit from them, because it would kill the small businesses, and that's my biggest concern. But I do believe in increasing the minimum wage as well.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Staying on the economic issues, Ms. Flores, we go with you first. In March of 2020, the median income, or the median home that is, price in District 34 was $158,000. In March of this year, the median price was $246,500. That's an increase of 44%. What specific policies would you support to make housing affordable?
Well, again, this is what Bidenomics, this is all the Biden and Harris administration. They've put in place policies that have cost us by them constantly sending billions of dollars abroad. The overspending, it's what's caused inflation and what's caused everything to rise up. We have to put Washington on a budget. We're all in a budget here. You know, Americans are in a budget living paycheck to paycheck. We have to put Washington on a budget as well. We need to stop the overspending. We need to stop printing money. We're $35 trillion in debt. In order for us to get out of debt, every American would have to pay about $100,000 for America to get out of debt. And our children, our grandchildren deserve better than that. So we have to cut spending. We're right now on we need to go back to pre-pandemic spending. We're spending just as much as if we were in COVID, and we're not in COVID anymore. Most Americans are back to work, so we need to put Washington on a budget, just like we're on a budget as well as Americans.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Mr. Gonzalez, same question for you. Given the 44% increase, what specific policies do you support to make housing affordable?
First of all, right now we have a housing shortage, not only in our region, but across the country. We need to be able to give the ability to our builders to build more homes. We need to get prices of products that are required to build homes to come down. If we're going to talk about housing, we should talk about what's causing the increase in housing. It's not necessarily just our interest rates. It's the fact that so many products, we had a shortage of products that couldn't move around the world as efficiently during COVID. That's not happening anymore. We have to go after price gougers that are being protected by the Republican Party, and they continue to gouge the American consumer. It's simple as that. We are past COVID, as she said, we are past COVID, and we shouldn't be charging COVID prices. We had, back at the time, we had metal, we had wood, we had so many hard products that we couldn't move around the world, and we couldn't supply builders to build homes. Now we don't have that issue. We need to get back, we need to support our builders, we need to support people that can fill that shortage of housing, and that will bring prices down.
Thank you, Congressman.
Mr. Gonzalez, from August 2023 to August of this year, Texas added over 300,000 jobs. However, unemployment in the Valley remains higher than the statewide average. What would you do to attract higher paying jobs to the Valley, and how can we make sure people in the Valley have the proper skills needed for those positions?
So we're actually doing that now. I recently got the permits for the 2 LNG terminals at the port that will bring high-paying jobs to our region. We are bringing more. I brought people from around the country and around the world to our port, and we have 40,000 acres that are ready to build much more industry. SpaceX continues to grow, and there are more people more new industries coming down to South Texas than ever in history. So I agree. The unemployment rate needs to come down further, but we've come down a whole lot. We were at right now nationally we're at about 4% unemployment. 96% of Americans have jobs today. So we were at 9% just a decade ago. We are moving in the right direction. We just need to continue pushing. We just came out of a global pandemic that didn't just hurt the United States, it hurt the entire world, and we're recovering. Every economist in the world agrees on that.
Ms. Flores, same question to you. What would you do to attract higher paying jobs to the Valley, and how can we make sure people in the Valley have the proper skills for those positions?
Well, I want to address something really quick. He's constantly blaming Republicans for the cost of living and the high cost. But I want to say something really quick that it's not true, Congressman. One of the reasons why we have the issue that we have with inflation is you voted for it, H.R. 1280. Fact check me. One of the reasons why we have this high cost of living is because you voted for it.
What's the name of the bill? What's the name of the bill?
It's the Inflation Act.
No, it's not the Inflation Act.
It is.
It's called
Mr. Gonzalez.
You'll have 30 seconds for
$1.9 trillion, and that is one of the reasons why we're in the situation that we're in. You're blaming grocery stores and builders for the high cost. The reality is that you voted in favor of sending billions and billions of dollars abroad. The Democrat Party has sent billions and billions of dollars abroad. That's what's caused inflation. That's what's caused the high cost of living, and that is why Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck. Unfortunately, the policies that the Democrat Party has put in place, the policies that you have put in place, it's what's hurting us tremendously. I'm glad you're doing well economically, but unfortunately, Americans right now are struggling tremendously.
Mr. Gonzalez, I'll give you a chance to answer that, but I also want to ask, what role do you think foreign aid is playing in higher prices?
Yeah, first of all, I want to talk about, what she's talking about is the Inflation Reduction Act that she voted against. That's what capped insulin for people here in South Texas at $35. It also capped pharmaceutical costs for our senior citizens at $2,000 a year. It also created a multi-billion-dollar investment in Clayburgh County that's going to create thousands of jobs. She was out there celebrating that event, but she voted against it. I think people need to know, insulin is a big problem here in South Texas. We have a lot of poor people that are diabetics and need that care. She voted against them.
Ms. Flores, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Absolutely not. Actually, under President Trump, we already had prescriptions at $35, but then the Biden and Harris administration removed those policies, and that's what increased the prescription. They realized that, so then they wanted to fix the problem, and they put back in place this bill that in reality, it was all pork. You know, most of this money was sent abroad. It was not focused on the American people's need. Again, every bill that he's voted in favor of, it has not been in favor of us here in Texas 34. He voted against bringing millions of dollars to fix our resacas because he said, well, that's going to increase taxes, but yet votes in favor of sending billions of dollars abroad.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. We asked our viewers to...
Can I rebut this?
Briefly.
She is completely wrong. I hope somebody's fact-checking it. Trump did not have $35 insulin costs. He did not cap insulin costs at $35. He did not cap senior citizen. No, he did not. He did not cap senior citizen costs at $2,000 a year. I hope you guys fact-check this.
We have a lot of topics to get to. We're going to move on right now.
Just do a little research.
We asked our viewers to submit questions for tonight's debate. Frank McCaffrey is standing by with one of their questions, and it was, in fact, the most asked question we received. Frank?
Yes, that's right. We had more than 60 questions from viewers. The cost of groceries was the #1 question. New government data shows food costs are decreasing, but many people still report feeling financially strained from paying for their groceries. Now, the Food Bank of the Rio Grande Valley reports helping to feed over 85,000 people locally every week. Eddie from McAllen asks, what would you do to bring down the cost of food?
Thank you, Frank. Ms. Flores, you have 60 seconds.
Again, we have to reduce spending. We have to stop the overspending and the printing. We're printing trillions and trillions of dollars, and that is devaluating the dollar. We need to focus on being more energy independent. We need to drill, and that is going to bring the cost down. But again, we have to stop sending billions of dollars abroad that we don't have, while the American people here are living paycheck to paycheck. I find it a huge disrespect for our government to constantly send trillions of dollars abroad while the American people here are living paycheck to paycheck. So I believe that if we put Washington on a budget, just like we're all on a budget, I believe that that is going to reduce the cost of everything. But it's going to take a lot, just because the Biden and Harris administration have just destroyed the economy completely. And unfortunately, I wish I could say that that isn't the reality, but it's their policies that have put us in this position.
Mr. Gonzalez, same question to you. What would you do to bring down the cost of food? You have 60 seconds.
Actually, the dollar didn't devaluate. It's actually appreciated over the last 7 or 8 years. Somebody should fact check that. What we need to do is produce more food and hold these grocers responsible and producers responsible that are price gouging. There's no longer the supply line issues that we had a few years ago. And the federal government and state governments around the country and the Federal Trade Commission needs to go after this abusive behavior that continues to take advantage of the American people. It's that simple. These are proven facts. Economists are saying this across the board. Democrats and Republicans both agree on this issue. I'm surprised to hear these kind of words from this woman.
You shouldn't blame grocery
30
stores.
seconds.
I find it a huge disrespect to blame our grocery stores because of the prices. The reason why they have these prices is because of the cost. They have to do this. You're responsible for this.
It's a supply line issue.
It's the Biden administration, the Harris administration that have caused all this. To blame our grocery stores because of the cost, it's a huge disrespect, and I hope that all our grocery stores are listening to this.
We're moving on to the next topic. We are talking about Social Security now. Mr. Gonzalez, many people in the Valley depend on Social Security. There are concerns that Social Security funds are depleting. If reelected, what would you do to make sure Social Security is available for future retirees?
Well, for sure, I'm going to always protect and expand Social Security for our seniors. People have worked all their lives, and when it's time for them to retire, they should have the resources available. The Republicans want to raise the age of Social Security to 69 and the age of Medicare to 67. It's on Project 2025. The Texas Public Policy Foundation that paid you $60,000 said that they're pushing to get rid of Social Security, to set sunsets on it, and to make it more difficult to get it. So we need to fully fund Social Security and make sure our senior citizens have the care they need when they turn of age, and they have the medical care they need.
Ms. Flores, you also have 60 seconds. If elected, what would you do to make sure Social Security is available for future retirees?
I actually agree with the congressman. We have to protect Medicaid and Social Security. Our families and Medicaid, we have to protect because our families here in South Texas depend on it. What surprises me is that he voted for H.R. 6678, which prohibits deporting illegal immigrants that commit fraud for Social Security. Anyone that is illegally in the country that commits Social Security fraud should be deported, but yet he voted not to allow that. So if you support Social Security and Medicare, you should be okay with deporting those that are illegally in the country and committing this type of fraud.
If they are convicted, I will definitely deport them, but that proposal was just, if there was an insinuation or a charge, they would automatically be deported. So no, I'm not going to do that. I believe in due process. We live in the United States of America. We have a legal system that should be the legal process we use.
Thank you so much. We are now switching topics. It's another important topic, education, as you know. Ms. Flores, 43 million Americans have federal student loan debt. 3.8 million are Texans. What's your plan to make higher education affordable, especially for the people of your district?
Look, I did not go to a university because I couldn't afford it myself. I actually went to South Texas College because it was a lot more affordable. So I understand the struggle. I don't understand why a book will cost $1,000. We need to pressure these universities in bringing the cost down. It's just ridiculous. I'm glad to see that low-income families are able to get, the help that they need with financial aid. It's the middle class that suffers. They're not able to qualify for financial aid, but the parents don't make enough to pay for their education. So I believe that we need to pressure our universities in bringing the cost down, because it's ridiculous what they charge our students to get their education. But nothing is free. Nothing is free. It's going to cost someone, right? So I believe in bringing the cost down of education to make it affordable for everyone and not just certain people. But I believe that we all have to pay for our education. I paid it myself at South Texas College because unfortunately I couldn't afford going to a university. But we have to reduce the cost of these tuitions.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Mr. Gonzalez, same question. What is your plan to make higher education available?
Thank you. Great question. When I got out of law school, I owed over $100,000 in student loan debt. It took me years to pay that off. It prevents you from buying your first home, having your first child. We have $1.75 trillion in student loan debt in this country, and we need to help people graduate from college without being overburdened. College, university, technical school. We definitely need to pressure universities to lower their costs because I think they're outrageous, but we also need to find programs. I've helped fund programs in high school where they get 2 years of college credit. By the time they go to university, they only have to do 2 more years. We also got funding for the university here at UTRGV. If your parents combined earn less than $150,000, there's programs for you to come out debt-free. I continue to support those programs. I continue to find funding, and I continue to look for young people to find a way to take this burden of debt off their back. They fought President Biden tooth and nail on the student loan debt. We have a lot of people here in South Texas that are overburdened with student loan debt, and we need to help them.
Mr. Gonzalez, this question is for you. The federal government only contributes 8% to public education. Would you support increasing federal funding for education and reducing dependence on local property taxpayers?
Well, I think I'm for fully funding education in every way we can, from university all the way down to Head Start programs. Just this year, I brought $160 million of Title I funding for our public schools, something that the Project 2025 and Republicans are trying to cut. There was a bill that came out of subcommittee and appropriations trying to cut these funds. I brought $1 billion since I arrived in office 8 years ago to our public schools, universities, colleges, and technical schools. We need to find ways for our schools to have all the resources they need to give our kids the best education in the world and ensure they have good jobs waiting for them when they graduate. So we can't look for different places. We should look for every place that we can to find resources for our public schools. Certainly not cut Title I funding, which is on the top of the list of the Republicans. It's the folks who have been paying her campaign. Those are the people that are supporting that.
You mentioned fully funding education. Does that mean that you are in favor of more federal funding for education rather than local taxpayers?
I'm for finding resources to our education from wherever we can get them. I'm for fully funding preschool programs and Head Start programs. Just this year, I brought $25 million to our Head Start programs. Studies show that the first 3 to 5 years of life determine the next 50. And we need to start educating these children as babies so they can compete with the rest of the state, the rest of the country, and the rest of the world.
Ms. Flores, same question to you. Would you support increasing federal investment in education and reducing reliance on local taxpayers?
Well, first I want to say I do not know what Project 25 is. I'm not familiar with this. This is not my plan. They funded you. It's not my plan. It's not President's plan as well. I got my own plan. I believe that parents should have the right to decide what is the best education for their children. I'm the only, I would say, candidate here that has children in public schools. I have 4 children in public schools. Public education is very important for me. I want to strengthen the public education because I have children in public schools. But I also believe that parents should have the right to decide what is the best education for their children. I also believe we need to protect our little girls' sports. You know, our congressman voted in favor of biological men to play in women's sports. I'm afraid I have 2 daughters, HR 5, fact check me. I have 2 daughters. I do not want biological men playing it with my daughters. I believe that we're both very special, but I believe that we need to respect our little girls' spaces and women's spaces as well.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Yes, you have 30 seconds.
Absolutely, that's not true. And if she should know what Project 2025 is because they funded her. The Texas Public Policy Foundation, which gave her $60,000 after she lost her last election, hired her and paid her $60,000, are the main endorsers of Project 2025. If you don't know what it is, you should know what it is.
You know, he comes to South Texas and he pretends to be a moderate, he pretends to be a conservative. There's no such a thing as a conservative Democrat. They just do not exist in 2024. But he says one thing here in South Texas, but he goes to Washington and he votes in favor for biological men to play in women's sports, and he voted also for children to be transitioned as well. with
Thank you, Ms.
your
Flores.
tax
We are going to
funds
move
as
on.
well.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so
did.
much.
Needs to read some bills.
HR 2670.
I think this is a
Thank you.
good
We're going
time
to
for
move
us
on.
to take a break.
Yes.
When we return, we will ask the candidates about another hot topic here in our area, immigration. You are watching Debate Night Texas. Stay with us.
Right. Just getting warmed up. No, dude.